Good afternoon, everybody. Madam Clerk, I call this session to order. Attorney Plunkett.
Mr. Mayor, we would ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Motion to approve.
All right, I got a motion from, I heard Commissioner Francine Scott. Can I get a second? Second from Commissioner Rice. Madam Clerk, we're voting.
Just tell me if you don't mind. You're voting yes in affirmative? Yes. That motion carries with Ms. Scott voting yes, Mr. Jordan Johnson, Ms. Rice, Mr. Clark, Mr. Slindak, Commissioner Guilfoyle, and the mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. We're now suspended to executive session. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. We'll apologize for us running a little bit late in executive session. Madam Clerk, I call this meeting back to order. Attorney Plunkett.
Mr. Mayor, we request a motion to authorize you to execute the closed meeting affidavit.
So move.
It's a motion by Commissioner Don Clark, second by Commissioner Francine Scott. Madam Clerk, we're voting.
Mr. Lewis, we are voting on the closed meeting affidavit, sir.
I think he,
Maintenance repairs on mine. Let's see if it's working.
Yes, sir.
It worked.
Yay. That motion carries with,
it's not working.
It's not working? Wait a minute. Ms. Barnes, I push the green button for the record.
for the record, you're voting yes? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Attorney Plunkett, are there any motions as a result of our executive session?
There are none.
Thank you, sir. If not, executive session is closed. And now, Madam Clerk, I call our regularly scheduled commission meeting to order.
Yes, sir. At this time, we will have our invocation shared with us today by Dr. Michael Mitchell, Senior Pastor of the Restoration Ministries, after which we would like to ask our Airport Director, Mr. Herbert Jadon, if he would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, great commission. Thank you all so much. Let's bow our head and pray. Oh, sovereign Lord, supreme sustainer, we lift our city before your throne of grace, seeking your presence, your power, and your peace. You are the builder of all things, the keeper of all our gates, and the governor of all nations. Establish this city on righteousness, truth, justice, that it may stand as a beacon of hope and of holiness. Lord, grant our leaders wisdom to govern with integrity, watchfulness to discern the needs of the people, and willingness to follow your will. May they seek your counsel as Solomon did, ruling with justice and mercy. Father, help our city's vision to be carried out with clarity, compassion, and conviction. Illuminate the path for us so that we can walk clearly, that our city may walk in the light of your truth. Let compassion guide our steps, ensuring that no soul is forsaken. Strengthen our conviction of our hearts, of those who seek to build a future aligned with your purpose. Grant all of our citizens in this great city with your blessing, spiritual blessing, physical blessing, financial blessing, so we can live in harmony and generosity, to lift up one another in all these times of need. May you be our city set on a hill, shining with good works and glorify you. Father, we thank you that you keep our city safe. Protect us. Place your hedge of protection around about us, around our homes, our streets, our workplaces, governing and carrying protection around all of our city leaders. So let peace reign in our hearts and in our neighborhood. Prosper the works of our hand and establish the fruit of our labors. Then direct us by guiding us to goodness and godliness. Order our steps, O God, in the way. You are the one that guides and directs. So guide us. Let us be led by way of your direction. Give us vision and purpose and destiny, and let us carry out your godly assignment. Bless all of our leaders. Put a fresh anointing on them. Let them work together in compassion and unity to build a bigger, special Augusta, Georgia. Let us be one. Let us walk as one. Let us live as one. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord guard you and guide you. May he cause his face to shine upon you. May you walk in blessing and peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reverend Mitchell, will you please stand? We would like to thank you so much for taking the time to come with us to pray for us. As you know, Scripture says, pray for those who have authority. And we really appreciate you sharing those inspirational spiritual words with us. We truly appreciate your consideration, and we value the spiritual insights that you shared with us today. By these presents be it known that Dr. Michael Mitchell, Senior Pastor of Restoration Ministries, is the chaplain of the day. May his spiritual guidance and civic leadership serves as an example for all of Augusta. Given under my hand this 4th day of February, 2025, Garnett L. Johnson, Mayor. Thank you.
Pastor Mitchell, it is always an honor to see you and to have you in our chambers. Thank you, sir, for all that you do for our community, especially out in South Richmond County. You're greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, we're going to take a point of personal privilege. As many of you know, we lost a former colleague, former Commissioner John Clark from the 10th Commissioner District. Normally on a day like today, John will be sitting where his son Trace is sitting. Trace is actually sitting in his seat today, and he has Debbie along with him. So first, I'm going to ask, and I'm going to yield to my colleague from the 3rd to read a letter of mourning, and then we're going to ask for a moment of silence in observance of former Commissioner John Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Trace and Debbie, for being here today. I know that this hasn't been easy for you all and your family, so I want to go ahead and say that this certificate is in recognition of our former Commissioner John Clark Jr. This certificate is awarded by a grateful city to the devoted, selfless, and a dedicated servant of Augusta, Richmond County, Georgia. In remembrance of John Clark, a former county commissioner, he was a leader, a mentor, and a friend to many in this community. We honor his memory and celebrate his contributions and lasting influence in the city of Augusta, and John will be dearly missed, but never forgotten. I'm going to ask the mayor, there's a portion down here at the bottom that I might have to let you read off on, but
I don't mind at all.
I could tell some stories about John Clark and go on for days and days, but he was a mentor, my sidekick up here to the right at the end, and a confidant. And we talked often on the phone, talked about a lot, from family, friends, to politics, to you name it, songs. His articles I enjoyed reading. He was a fantastic writer, and he did a fabulous job, and he served us well for the Super District 10 years that he was here, from 2018 to 2000 and into 2022. So he certainly will be missed. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. And the rest of the letter says, now therefore be it resolved that I, Garnett Johnson, along with the Commission of Augusta, Richmond County, do hereby declare February 3rd, 2025, a citywide day of mourning for John Edgeworth Clark Jr. Trace, thank you so much for sharing your dad with us. Debbie, you know how much we loved him. And ladies and gentlemen, if you will, with me, let's have a moment of silence and observance of former Commissioner John Clark. Thank you so much. Thank you. Madam Clerk. Yes, I want to present this to Mr. Trace and Ms. Debbie. Madam Clerk, can you make sure? All right, Madam Clerk. I think that takes us to our delegation portion of this meeting.
Mr. Mayor, if we could, please, if you would consider our addendum agenda. We have an item from item A on the agenda. Item number 4.
Item number 4. All right.
Okay, so if we could accept the addendum agenda, or not,
All right.
or modify it.
So you're saying we need to delete item number 4?
If we accept, reject, or modify the addendum agenda, I'm asking for consideration. Are we accepting it as stated?
Is Mr. Joedge here?
His communication is attached,
Oh, his communication is attached.
requesting
Okay.
that he be deleted
All right.
from today's agenda.
All right, colleague, is there any objection to accepting this addendum agenda? Without objection?
Thank you.
You're seeing none. It's accepted.
Okay.
All right.
With that action being taken, item number 8A is deleted from today's agenda. Item number B, Mr. Dave Barbie regarding property located at 802 Green Street.
All right. Mr. Barbie, if you will approach, please. While you approach, for the record, I need your name and address, and obviously there are some deliverables for this body.
Yes, sir.
All right.
My name is Dave Barbie. I live at 807 Mayo Lane, Augusta, Georgia, zip code 30907. I am currently the vice chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, and I come before you concerning the property at 802 Green Street, which is the old First Baptist Church building. The Historic Preservation Commission operates under the Augusta Richmond County Preservation Ordinance. Under section 4-4-52 of the Augusta Historic Preservation, Augusta Preservation Ordinance for Augusta, Georgia. It says failure to provide ordinary maintenance or repair. The Historic Preservation Commission, HPC, may hold a hearing on the property of a historic district that is in deteriorating for lack of ordinary maintenance or repair. Historic Augusta came before the Historic Preservation Commission last August with their concerns over the deteriorating condition of the First Baptist Church, 802 Green Street. The First Baptist Church has a historical significance. This church is on the National Historic Registry as well as the local registry. It is also on the Historic Augusta's Endangered Properties list and the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation's list of places in peril. HPC's only concern are preserving the historic treasure of downtown Augusta, Old Town, and Somerville. The issue is all about the condition of a building and saving the structure, which is in a historic district. HPC voted unanimously to hold a public hearing concerning the deterioration condition of the property located at 802 Green Street. On January 16, 2025, HPC held the public hearing concerning conditions of the First Baptist Church building. Testimonies from the following witnesses: Brandy Palmer, Augusta Code Enforcement; Robert Malden, licensed architect, NCRB certified; Allison Palfay, principal of Immaculate Conception School; Jeffrey Green, director of maintenance of Immaculate Conception School; Gary Dennis, executive director of Jesse Norman School of the Arts; and Joe Edge, which was representing SH Investment Group 1 LLC, owner of the said property. The evidence we received at the hearing was significant concerning the deterioration of the First Baptist Church. The most significant evidence was given by the Augusta Richmond County Code Enforcement and Immaculate Conception Catholic Church School. The HPC has acted lawfully and appropriately per the Historic Preservation Ordinance for Augusta, Georgia. The HPC is in the business of saving historic structures, not demolition by neglect. We gave you a packet. In that packet, I think there's about 6 things that you can look over at your leisure. I'm not going to read all of it or go over all of that. But the first thing is an article written in the Augusta magazine in 2020 when the property was purchased. The next is the code violations list accompanied with pictures of the situation. This is by the Augusta Richmond County Code Enforcement. That's dated 8/21/24. The next item is a transcript or notes from the hearing listing who spoke, who spoke at the hearing and asked questions and followed up. The next packet is the pictures that's presented to us at the hearing. And then the next item is a letter that was authorized and sent by vote unanimously by only one abstention at the hearing to send a letter to the property owner. We are hoping to have a situation where they would be working with us to mothball it, and that's all we're asking. But instead, we received a COA, and now it says project type, demolish. So that'll be coming before the Historic Preservation Commission. Today we have with us, I'm the vice chair, I have the chair, Tara Conway, I have members of the HPC Commission, I have Robert Walden, I have Eric Montgomery, I have Sam, where's Sam at? Our legal counsel. We follow this thing right down to the letter. And I guess my only other comment I want to make is we have a lot of historic buildings in Augusta. We have an avenue and a way to protect these buildings. The purpose of us having the historic Augusta in the HPC is so someone that buys a historic building, they have the right to receive tax credits going through the process. We don't authorize them, but they go through the process and get a tax credit, and they also can get grants. Grants, they don't have to pay back. Tax credits is different. But that's set forth with this. There's been a lot of innuendos and things that have been said. This is about the building. I think there's 3 commissioners that's here today that was at that hearing. They were all there. They saw what was stated and what was said. Now, I have these people here with me today. If y'all have any questions or would like to direct any questions to any of us, we're forthwith to answer them. But that's where we are with this. We just feel that we were doing our due diligence as appointed by the commission. That's our job. And we were following the rules of the ordinance. And people said we've been stepping out of bounds. We're targeting. That's the furthest thing from the truth. All we're looking at is the building, and that's it. Mr. Mayor, I'll take any questions. If you have any, if you need to speak with anyone we have here, please, I pray that someone will ask.
You got it. Excuse me. Mr. Barbie, thank you so much for being here in your presentation, sir. I do have one colleague in the queue. The chair is going to recognize Commissioner Wayne Guilfoyle from Mayor Pro Tempore from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Barbie, thank you for coming before us. This HPC's been before this body before, actually back in November of 2024.
Correct?
And the commission directed HPC board to review the other HPC's policies across the state. And at their meeting without telling legal counsel or Director Delaney, y'all had tabled it until 2025.
No. That's not the case. There was
Without any date in mind, might I add.
No, we didn't. There was a meeting held, and Leon, you'll have to speak to this. Where's Leon? Leon, you were in attendance. Leon Mayburn was the chairman at the time. Right. Eric, you attended that meeting also, correct? These two That was who was asked to attend. At that commission meeting, Commissioner Bobby Williams asked Leon if he'd be there at this meeting, a small group meeting. And the mayor.
So during I didn't mean to interrupt, Ms. Barbie. So in the January 2025 meeting, it was held in these chambers? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there should be minutes that y'all had discussions in regards to looking at other entities?
Well, we didn't, no one came to us about, we got minutes for a meeting.
It was designated on this floor back in November for y'all to proceed forward looking at other entities, other communities around the state as far as the...
It was not on our January agenda, sir. That's all I can tell you.
All right, so basically everyone that's here was here back in November.
Yes, sir.
And nobody remembered it. Okay. We received so many negative things about HPC. Matter of fact, I got a letter right here in front of me from the medical field that builds in the Hill section. This person was met with hostility, superior attitude, and unwillingness to compromise or listen to reason. So when it goes before y'all's body, who controls that board? When somebody brings up an idea, is it just shot down? Because I actually had one of my family members on that board and decided to get off because they couldn't deal with the same word, hostility, that he was met with. But how is it dealt with as far as when y'all have somebody come in? Let's say Mr. Edge.
Yeah. All right, if someone comes, they file for a certificate of appropriateness. It comes before us. It is the code, Mr. Laney's department, they go through the whole apparatus. They present the case to us, and then the applicant is there and they testify, and then give their statement if there's anything to be added. Then we ask if there's anyone in the audience that are against it, and that's the way it's conducted. We have guidelines that we have to follow. We have an ordinance, and this is the guidelines that we have to follow for 3 communities, 3 neighborhoods.
Right.
Somerville, the Old Town and Downtown. And these are the guys we have to follow.
Let me remind you, our general counsel just saying we're getting very broad in this
I know
conversation,
it.
so let's keep it very specific.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
That's all I can.
All right. So I guess the board, HPC board, regardless, I spoke with, we had Mr. Eric Montgomery at the table in regards to this property, said property, last year, year before, where Mr. Edge was actually trying to sell it to a different church. And I think Mr. Montgomery was trying to find tax credits for to get that project done. So there was activity on this building, but I think the best thing that we could do, since I would love to see the minutes of the meeting. I would love to have my planning and zoning director, which y'all, if you wouldn't mind, Mayor, that we could hear, because actually our planning and zoning director, I believe, oversees this board. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. She gives us the information. Yes, sir, she does.
Does she oversee your board, is what I asked.
I thought we operated as independent.
Okay. But there's some guidance along the way? Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, can I have Mr. Lean?
Yeah, Mr. Lane, if you will, come over to this other podium. We'll let Mr. Barbie stay there, if you don't mind. Mr. Barbie, stay right there.
Okay.
Director Delaney,
Good afternoon.
Commissioner from the 10 still holds the floor. Commissioner.
Mr. Laney, as far as the January meeting that was supposed to be discussed about the looking at other municipalities with this HPC ordinance, did that ever take place in January?
The directive was for it to take place in December from the commission. That meeting did not happen. The meeting happened, but when the item was placed on the agenda as advertised and required at the meeting, the HPC board, prior to me being able to present my findings, they introduced a motion where I would not present. And what I would do, what they would decided to do was to postpone this particular item into 2025. In listening to the minutes again, one of the things that someone on the HPC actually asked, do you want it in January? And they said, no, 2025, sometime in 2025. So there has never been an opportunity to carry out the directive. We did attempt it, but it was not successful because that the HPC does, the chair and the vice chair, they technically run the meetings, but we are the staff that's in a support role. So we don't try to supersede them. If they make that motion, we honor that motion.
Okay. What can we do to make this committee better?
Well, I think one of the things we have to remember is that the HPC is a board of volunteers.
Okay.
They're passionate. There's no income involved. They care. I think that there's some opportunity for improvement. I had a list of a couple of things that I thought would work, but I didn't get to present those things because I think it works best if we collaborate and not that it be presented as though we're pushing something off on them, but the opportunity to collaborate has been stalled. So.
So, Ms. Delaney, you, at the next meeting that they have at the HPC, you could bring it up and hopefully they listen?
I can put it on the agenda. If they vote not to hear it again, then I will not present because I have to honor the motion that's on the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Barbie, thank you for coming before us as well.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Mayor Pro Tempore Guilfoyle. Wait just a second. We got a few colleagues in the queue. Mr. Barber, don't leave.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first, Commissioner Jordan Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple questions. First, I'll start by just saying that I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion about the HPC and how things can be, a little bit more efficient. I look forward to meeting with my appointee, who's actually here today. So I'm looking forward to that. I have a couple questions before we move on. What was the purpose for that agenda item not being heard at that December meeting? Do you remember, Mr. Barbie?
My understanding was that there was supposed to be a pre-meeting. That was what the commission asked for in November, for us to get together and come up and and vet this. That wasn't the case. It didn't happen that way. And the only meeting I know that took place was when I think council and Eric and Leon, they met. And who else? Who?
I believe George Bush is what she's saying.
And that was it. We didn't. And it wasn't discussed any further. Never brought back.
So you all are prepared to move forward with that discussion? I'm down here.
We're welcome to move forward.
Okay.
We just want to be included in the discussion. That's all we're asking.
Okay.
That's
My
it.
next question is number 2 is how does the HBC address blighted properties within the historic districts? So I understand that this church is in the historic district, but you also have the old Woolers building on Broad, which is a historic property, the Crest building on Broad, which could be considered a historic property, even the Belks at the Commons, that's historic. How does the HBC decide which properties to put this type of energy and effort into? Because I saw the letters that went out to the owner of this church saying they had 10 days to respond, or they would go to court or something. I don't believe that the HBC should have the ability to take someone to court, for one. But I'm just interested in knowing what is the procedure for when there's a blighted property, and how do you all address that?
On a blight property is this, and I'm just going to speak to the Sky City issue.
Okay.
We approved for them to demolish the history. I wasn't on the commission at the time. They approved demolishing of the old Sky City building. The owner of the property was going to build a hotel. That's what he said he was going to do. He let the COA run out. He came back before the Historic Preservation Commission to get another COA. We asked him, do you have a plan for the property? He said, no, not at this time. So therefore, if we had approved it, you'd have had a hole in the middle of Broad Street. Nothing would have been a parking lot. That's it. He could have done anything he wanted to do with the property. And our ordinance states we have to have a purpose. Once we demolition a building of that nature, they're supposed to have a plan. That's all they have to do is give us a plan. We have approved what they did on 600 Broad Street, the Chamber. We approved them to go forward with modernization of the Marion Building. Nothing's happened. So, I mean, these things, we don't have a way of forcing them to do it. Once we authorize it, if they don't do it, we don't have a mechanism, period.
So my last question, do you ride around and find these properties? Are the properties, are they reported to you? Like how would a Woolworths or Crest, how would one of those, and I'm not asking you to do this, but I'm saying how would one of those properties get on your radar?
They would come to us third party, just like this one did.
So it would have to be something they want to do
Right.
to come before you to get it done.
Now, I drive through downtown Augusta all the time. I see it. But I'm not a third party. I could probably raise it, but I'm on the commission. It's not my place to do that. That would be someone else's position to do that. But again, any building in a historic district should be mothballed or maintained. We don't want it tore down. We want it refurbished. And it's only in those historic districts. We approved, there's another issue that we approved. We approved the old Smokes Bakery building. We approved that long ago, and it still hadn't been, nothing's been done there. And I don't know what the problem is, but it's been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner from the first. Chair recognizes Commissioner Smith Rice from the third.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for being here today, Dave, Tara, Historic Preservation, and Historic Augusta. I'm going to start off. I was at that meeting, and I believe, well, I know I saw two of my colleagues at the meeting on the Thursday of January, I think it was 16th. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this, and I want everybody to hear this. I have always been a huge advocate for historic buildings, homes, everything. And I listen, and I feel that I'm fair when I hear what I hear from two sides. I listen to both sides. But that particular night, meeting was supposed to have been held downstairs, but anyway, it got moved up because I guess more people were supposed to show up. However, I felt like listening to it, we had an attorney, and I can't remember the other attorney's name. She drilled this particular owner of this church like it was a courtroom. I mean, I hadn't seen anything like this. I have not. And I don't go to every HPC meeting, but what I saw that night, I felt like it was personal. I did. And I'm sitting out there listening, and I felt like it was personal, and I thought to myself, who else has been done like this? The owner pays taxes, we know that, and he's invested in this city. Whatever he decides, I think that's in his jurisdiction, that he gets to make that decision. But where I am is, I talked to Director Delaney. I respect her, and I respect people on the board as well, this HPC board. But I also feel like, too, that it seems just like that, you go straight to the attorney, to Mr. Miller, and circumvent around Director Delaney. And Director Delaney is to work with this board, and y'all are to work with her. I'm going to shoot straight. If it were my way today, I'd like to be able to make a motion to have legal department amend the ordinance, and then something like this won't happen again. I feel like that there's so much control right now on this board that it's like no slowing down. why doesn't anything come before the commission? Why aren't we the final say? I know planning and zoning, it comes before and we have a final say. I just would like to know, I feel like this ordinance needs to be revamped, redone.
Can I address some of that, Mr.?
Sure, sure.
If we deny a certificate of appropriateness, that applicant has the right to come before the commission. You are the final say. That's it. That's it, real simple. If we deny it, it goes to arbitration, not arbitration, it goes to mediation. Then if it's not settled there, then it comes before the full commission. Y'all have the right to overrule anything we do. All we're here to do is to do what we have been told to do and instructed to do with the ordinance. That's it. Y'all appointed us, and you can overrule us anytime you choose. If they bring it before you, you have that right.
Okay. Well, I was under the impression by a few that we didn't have the final say.
You do. If they
Okay.
appeal it,
All right.
if he appeals it, if he chooses to appeal, if we deny the application, and he has a right to appeal it, he can come before you.
And that means if we decide we agree with him to demolish, we get to do that, correct?
That's exactly right.
All
Y'all want
right.
to tear the church down?
I might-
That's a decision y'all make.
Okay. Well, I might have another question or two, but I'm going to let my colleague let somebody else speak, and I might be coming back. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th, Tina Slindak.
Thank you. I also was at that meeting in January, and Commissioner Rice mentioned this, but I also was really disappointed in the way that Mr. Edge was spoken to. Just from observing both sides, I think both sides probably have room for improvement as far as talking back and forth to each other. But I just felt bad that any business owner in this town would have been, I mean, he was literally being interrogated, I felt. I mean, if my business had come up, I would hope I would not be questioned in the manner that he was questioned in. Not to saying that, you know, there weren't strong feelings and comments on both sides. I mean, there were. But I've worked across the street from that building for 20 years. Look at it every day. And all the years before it was purchased by him. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are just blaming a lot of this on Mr. Edge. And I mean, it was decades of neglect. But I've contacted him many times when there's been windows broken out. I mean, they're right in front of my building. And he does come and fix them. He's fighting a losing battle down there a little bit with, unfortunately, homeless people breaking in and things like that. But we've complained, you know, to him a little about trying to do something about the encampments around there. And he did put his fence up and everything. But I've had so many people just in the last few days, you know, why does the city want to do this? And I'm like, well, I don't think the city is really wanting that building. I mean, I think a lot of people are having difficulty in HPC in the city. And I mean, it's gotten to be where I feel like it's just two different things. Again, Ms. Delaney, you were at the meeting on January 16th. Were you aware of that meeting way ahead of time? Because I understand that, you know, there weren't strong feelings and things like that. But I would hope I would not be questioned in the manner that he was questioned in. Not to say that, you know, there weren't strong feelings and things like that. But I would hope I would not be questioned in the manner that he was questioned in. Mr. Edge or someone, maybe it wasn't you, but Mr. Edge said that, they saw it on TV. Cameras on TV talking about this. I mean, were you aware
It was,
that this meeting was on January 16th for several days ahead? You were aware that was?
they did a motion through, we had the HPC meeting, and if memory serves me correctly, we came out of executive session, we had a proper motion to move this forward, and the process was followed with regards to advertisement and things of that nature.
Okay.
There was, they did, and even in having this hearing, we have their concerns about how it was held. It was in compliance with the ordinance as written.
Okay.
So I do want to make that clear, and they did, they secured the location, we advertised it, because that was the motion that was properly made through the HPC policy process.
Okay. And I do want to make it clear, I mean, I'm not for or against either one. I just want to see a better, I personally don't want to see that church torn down. I would love to see it rehabbed into something, but I mean, it's going to take millions and millions and millions of dollars to make it functional again. So I think my comment is just, I hope we can have a smoother line of cooperation between HPC and all people, not just Mr. Edge, but all people that come before them.
May I reply?
Sure, of course.
Very briefly, very briefly.
Okay, that's all we want. We don't want the church demolished. All we wanted is mothballed, protected, to keep it from deteriorating further. The same thing with the Lamar building, the same thing with the Marion building. We don't want to see those buildings tore down. We have a building on Jones Street, Lafayette, the old Lafayette Hotel, historic marker. It's burned. It burned 3 years ago. Nothing's been done. All we're saying, we're not here to tear something down. We're here to preserve it. And that's the misconception. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's our sole purpose.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm going to acknowledge a few colleagues in the queue, but we've been at this for over 30 minutes.
I understand,
all right,
Mr. Mayor.
All right, Commissioner Alvin Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I certainly appreciate the work of well, let me not say it that way. While I appreciate the mission of the HPC, the perception, which becomes some people's reality, is that from the calls and emails that many of us have received and the observations, that a spirit of cooperation and the tone by which meetings and verbal discussions are had, that gives a perception that many times there's a superiority issue as it relates to HPC. Now, you say, well, perhaps perception is not necessarily reality. It doesn't actually have to equal that. But perception can be somebody's reality, whether it's yours or not. So the tone and your spirit of cooperation when you're conducting a meeting that is for public service for this community is of utmost importance. So my comment, more so than the question, is just to state that as you're dealing with your meetings and the various people that come forward, do be cognizant and mindful of the tone and the tenor and the veracity for which you conduct. That in itself, in a more communicative manner, and I'm not here to debate that, just making some statements, would have the potential to be more productive than what we're currently sitting here now. Now, I came up here in 2008, and I've been observing, even since then, it appears that, again, perception that there's many times that depending on who the property owner is depending on what decision is made. Let me say that again. Depending on who the property owner is, will depend on what the decision is. That's my observation. There's an observation I've made for 16 years of experience in this government. Could be wrong with the observation. So all I'm saying is this, and let me get a clarity from the legal. We do have the final decision as far as the commission is concerned for any decisions made by HPC.
That's my understanding, Mr. Mason, but Sam Miller is here. He represents them. He can
We
give you a
want
little more
clarity on that.
details.
We want definitive answers that are correct.
Mr. Miller.
The HPC ordinance states that for anybody who is affected by a decision of the HPC has the right to appeal by sending a letter to the clerk of commission. When they send that letter, we receive a copy of it. And by the way, the instructions for an appeal are in every COA letter that goes out, and the denials as well. When we receive, and this is, Mr. Brown taught me this procedure. When we receive the notice of mediation.
You need to refer Mr. Brown.
Mr. Wayne Brown, previous general counsel, who was the attorney for HPC. The next step is that I contact myself, that individual. I let them know that we are going to meet in HPC to create a mediation committee, which is what we do that in legal. At the next HPC meeting, we make a mediating committee. And we let them know about the rules of mediation, which state that the cost of mediation, it's in the ordinance, that the cost of mediation shall be borne by the appellant. Then we have the mediation, we suggest a mediator. Normally we use Ray Chadwick. The ordinance states that if the mediation fails, the matter then comes to the commission for a review on an abuse of discretion standard, and that decision is then made by y'all. I will say that when I was speaking to Mr. Wayne Brown, none of the mediations, all of the mediations were either resolved at the mediation level or the matter was dropped by the appellant, either before the mediation or after the mediation. And so those matters just weren't followed through to get to your level. That's what the ordinance says.
Okay, a couple things, Mr. Mayor. Number one, Mr. Brown's not here, and he's not coming back that I know of. So in order to rely on the information, it ought to be verified and re-verified, and then to ensure not that somebody gave you a secondhand opinion, but that you have factual matters at hand that we can clearly see and enforce. That's number one. We don't want to deal with any hearsay or anything like that. All right, so because we want to be fair to everyone, so we don't want to make decisions on hearsay. At least I'm not going to. Also, at the end of the day, and I'm not asking anybody for any questions or responses. I've just made some observations. That's the only question that I had in reference to that. But I would just hope that. Oh, the last thing, the ordinance. When was it put in place? This HPC ordinance. What year?
It's been updated a couple times. The most recent update, I want to say, was 2012.
2012, so 12 years ago. Perhaps the ordinance needs to be looked at to see if there's like we're doing the charter review, to see if there's any new business practices that we may be more effective and efficient for our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason from the 4th. Commissioner Lewis, I see you are in the queue, sir, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Mr. Barber, I think Attorney Miller answered the question that I was going to ask. I, too, was at that particular hearing, too, and I think there was some great presentation done by experts on behalf of the HPC. I listened intently to everything that he addressed, and I think Mr. Edge was given an opportunity to refute or rebut anything that was said that particular evening. I think it was well presented. I didn't leave there with the notion that he was being bashed in any way. That's not how I perceived it. I perceived it as looking for answers to a problem. Now, as far as the ordinance is concerned, that you all chronicle your decisions on, you follow them verbatim. whatever our ordinances are. And there again, the COA that's issued, if it's not issued, they have an opportunity to come before this commission or to mediate. And if mediation is not favorable, then they have a last resort of being able to come before this commission for a final vote on said case. Am I correct?
Correct.
And where we are now is we're past the mediation. We've never been to mediation with this particular.
Hadn't gone to mediation.
There hasn't been no mediation, but there has been a COA.
We haven't denied the COA.
You have
Just
not
applied-
denied the
he just
COA?
now send it to us. We haven't ruled on it.
Absolutely.
That's it. It's
That's my
not going to
understanding.
happen until our next HPC commission meeting.
That's my
And
understanding.
Y'all are all welcome to be
So,
there.
so the process is still moving forward
Right, yes,
with this particular case.
That's correct.
Now, I just want to ask you this last question. Have you, or has the HPC had any other cases of this magnitude within the last, some of you are serving 2-3 years on this board, some may have served a little longer, but this is a unique case right here. Has there been any precedent set based on this particular case that we're looking at now?
No. Only the precedence is set is following the guidelines and the ordinance. That's it.
And that's what you're bound by?
That's what we're bound to.
That's what
it.
you're bound by? Okay.
Y'all, the ordinance is as it is, we follow it. That's our Constitution. We're bound to follow it. If y'all, like I said, we serve at your pleasure. And last time I checked, you have a rule or you have a Constitution, you follow it. And that's what you ask us to do. And that's what we're trying to do it the best of our ability.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Next historic preservation meeting, you mentioned you're going to have another meeting. What date is that? What time?
Carla, isn't it the fourth Thursday or the third Thursday?
It's the fourth Thursday of the month.
And at what time?
It's at 5:30 p.m.
5:30 p.m. in the place right here in these chambers?
Beasley Room, downstairs.
Beasley Room. So for those of you in the public, if you want to attend, you're more than welcome. Chair recognizes Commissioner Rice.
I said, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I said one more question, just for clarity. Can the HPC take property owners to court without going before this commission?
I yield to legal counsel on that.
Attorney Miller? You may want to repeat the question, Commissioner.
Yes, sir, thank you. Attorney Miller, can the HPC take property owners to court without going before this commission? Because the only thing that goes before this commission that I'm aware of is a COA. Am I correct or am I wrong?
This is what the ordinance says. So it's, I don't know how to get the overhead projector working.
We'll get it up. Madam, Ms. Tasha, can you get that on the screen for us if you don't mind?
So we have the historic preservation ordinance for Augusta. We have statement of powers, that's 745. Do I zoom it in?
This way. Okay.
Other way.
And again.
Too much, a little bit back. Okay, that's statement of powers. And then so here are the back four of the statement of powers. Issue citations for violation of this chapter, petition the appropriate court to enjoin actions and violations of this chapter. I will say, because it was in my bar exam, that only Superior Court can enjoin. And institute any other appropriate action to enforce compliance with the terms of this chapter and exercise all other powers implicit or explicit in any other provision of this chapter. So if we read S, T, and U together, especially that implicit language, this commission has granted the HBC authority to, not this commission, but the commission.
So quickly, just yes or no, the HPC can take property owners to court without going before this commission?
Yes.
Okay? That is why I feel like this ordinance needs to be revamped. And I'll deal with that next week. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Guys, you know, looking at this, we've been at it about 45 minutes here. It's been a long time. So I see where this ordinance perhaps either needs to go to a what they call a work session or back to committee or something. We'll figure it out, though. Director Delaney, is there anything else you need to add before we wrap this?
Just that with regards to the certificates of appropriateness and the appeals process, a lot of the times the complaint that I get back as the director is that the individuals who don't have the ability to hire an architect or pay for arbitration end up dropping and withdrawing. So we need to look at a way to revisit this so that we have an opportunity for those with less resources to be able to move forward and be able to meet the needs of the HPC and you know, just their financial needs, because it can sometimes be a financial hardship.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Barbie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Madam Clerk, I think that takes us to our next delegation. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your patience. We're going to work through this.
Mr. Mayor, and Commission, Mr. Green has also asked that he be deleted from today's agenda.
All right, that's very good. So I guess that takes us to the consent portion of our agenda.
Yes, sir. Our consent agenda consists of items 1 through 15.
1 through 15, and let me remind my colleagues that we do have a sheriff, chief of staff here that has a couple of items on the addendum. So as you make considerations for adding things to the consent, please take a look at his items. Please, thank you so much. Chair recognizes Commissioner Wayne Guilfoyle.
Doing consent and poll items.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, it's up to the body if they wouldn't mind. Consent items, agenda item number 18, number 20, and then on the addendum item 1, 2, and 3.
All right. Madam Clerk, you got those?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, colleagues. Anybody else? Commissioner from the 2nd, Commissioner Stacy Pulliam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I'd like to pull number 7. I have a question. Yes, ma'am.
Number 7.
Number 7.
It's pulled. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
All right, colleagues. Y'all mind quiet. Is there anything else? Commissioner Don Clark from the 5th.
Yeah, I'd like to move for consent number 6, number 8.
It's already
They're already
on.
They're on
It's already on the consent.
Oh, it's on the consent, okay.
Up to 15.
Rookie mistake, sorry about that.
All right.
Item number 5, Mr. Mayor, on our addendum agenda, the petitioner is asking for number 5 to be deleted. It's at the request of the petitioner.
All right. Item number 5 on the addendum, petitioner has requested deletion.
Agenda. That's item number 16 on our regular agenda.
And
So
this
that
item's
will be
16.
deleted, item number 16.
Item 16 is deleted on the regular agenda. All right. All right, that's it. Let's somebody entertain a motion. Let's go.
Mr. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Michael. Chair recognizes Commissioner Al Mason from the floor.
Move to accept the consent agenda as stated.
All right, is that a form of motion?
Yes.
That is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Mayor Pro Tempore Wayne Guilfoyle. Bless you. Madam Clerk, we're voting.
Mr. Mayor, before we vote, can we announce the alcohol petitions here in the meeting before final approval?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Call your attention to item number 3. It's a request for an on-premise consumption liquor, beer, and wine license with Sunday sales to be used in connection with the location at 3626 Walton Way Extension. Are there any objectors?
Any objectors? Seeing and hearing none, let's continue.
Item number 4 is a request for consumption on premise for liquor, beer, and wine to be used in connection with A&E Sports Bar and Lounge located at 2623 Deansbridge Road. Are there any objectors?
Any objectors? Seeing or hearing none, let's continue.
Okay.
that
Ready
it?
to vote? Yes, sir. That's
All
it.
right. Colleagues, I think we're ready to vote. We see what the consent agenda on the screen. There's a proper motion and second. Madam Clerk, we're voting.
Scott, you trying? Okay. Mr. Clark, he's out. Okay. Mr. Johnson is out. Okay. That motion carries with Mr. Johnson and Mr. Clark out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chief Lewis, thank you so much for being here, sir. Chief Blanchard. All right. Madam Clerk, we're going to start with number 7, top to bottom.
Okay. Item number 7, a motion to deny contract award and rebid for one contractor, 3 zones, optional recycling, street sweeping, and mosquito control. Number 3, extension of the current contract for 4 years regarding residential waste and recyclable collection contract.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Pulliam from the second. You asked this to be pulled. You have the floor, madam.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mayor Johnson. My question would be in regards to the auxiliary services, and I'm not sure if I need to direct this to Madam Administrator or to Dr. Malik. But as far as the auxiliary services are concerned, it says mosquito control as well as, where was it? It was the mosquito control and the street sweeping. Are those the only, and the optional recycle, are those the only 3 auxiliary services that would be included in the rebid?
No, ma'am. So, and I'm glad you asked that question. Just to clarify, we will be bringing all the respective ancillary costs back to the governing body when we're looking at the cost that's going to be proposed for the overall waste haulers altogether, as well as a respective funding source for those ancillary costs. The directive from the governing body at those committee meetings were to look at just this totally by itself, the actual bid, and then to bring back the ancillary costs. So those could be alleviated from this if the governing body chooses, so that we can bring that back as a package.
Yes, I would like to do that, but I have a second part to my question. As far as, I know since we are putting this back out for bid, what is going to be the cost for the 4-month contract? Do we have a price for that?
Do we have that respective cost, Dr. Malik? The other thing, if I could as well, Commissioner Pulliam, is during this process, we will need a directive on how we want to proceed. That is one thing that we did not come up to a firm response on. If we want to proceed with a invitation to bid, which is basically based on cost, or if we want to do another RFP, which is request for proposal, which is based on qualifications, and the cost or the response may be probably around 10% of the actual decision that is made. So we'll need a directive from the governing body on how we would like to proceed, whether it's ITB or RFP.
Okay. I'm going to, once Dr. Malik gives me the answer, I'm going to yield to my colleagues that are, because of course I'm not going to make the decision on my own. So I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say about that as well. Thank you, Administrator Allen.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. So, as previously discussed, for 3 months extension, cost was around $900,000 to $1 million. So we're adding another 3 months to getting up to the June. So it's going to be additional that much amount, other $900 to $1 million.
I apologize, Dr. Malik. Could you repeat that again, please?
So the previous, this body approved 90-day extension that ends at March 31st. So cost was roughly around $900 to $1 million. So now this body is approving another 90-day extension. That's what 4 months, because we're considering, so it's going to go up to the June 30th, the 6 months with the rates that are approved. So it's going to add additional $900 to $1 million. So roughly, we can call it another $1 million.
Thank you, Dr. Malik.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. From the second, Chair recognizes Commissioner Francine Scott from the ninth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see this go back out as a RFP. I think that would be the most transparent way of doing things, and I think this is something that we need to do. Can I ask Dr. Malik a question, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Malik, so another 90 days is going to be approximately another $1 million, 900,000, I think you said.
Yeah, roughly that much.
And this would include everything that we are getting right now in terms of trash collection.
Yeah, we'll continue the services as such. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm not sure, do I need to put that in a motion to,
Yeah, if there's a consideration for an RFP, yes, ma'am. You can put that in the form of a motion, but I think there's more discussion from this body as we move forward with crafting a direction.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the fourth, Commissioner Al Mason.
All right, thank you. The only thing that I want to do is bring a little bit more clarity to these numbers that Dr. Malik is talking about, because if you don't talk in depth with meticulous details, one can draw the wrong conclusion. Yes, it's going to cost us for these next 90 days X amount of dollars. But if you put a contract in place today, it's going to cost anyway. So you're not $1 million in the hole, because you will be paying for the 90 days to begin with if we ended it, let's say today, and put it into the contract vendor of choice. So I don't want people to think that this is an extra $1 million that the city is wasting. No, it's not. Because if we did it today, you'd still be paying from today, but for the contract vendor of choice. But since we're not, we're doing another 90 days, you'd still be paying that 90-day money. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's not free. So that means it's not $1 million that's being wasted, or the city's, going crazy, making decisions, losing $1 million. And I'm not saying you're saying that, but this is what I'm hearing on the outside. So I need just to clear that up and make sure that we understand that, so that we don't just give a portion of information that allows people to draw a potentially wrong conclusion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. Commissioner Guilfoyle, Mayor Pro Tempore from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question's for the administrator. Can I ask a question? Madam Administrator, a year and a half, a year and 3/4 ago, we had the ambulance contract come up, and we was able to have that done within weeks. Now we're talking about 90 days on this. The format for the trash bid, RFP, is already in place. The only thing we got to do is change out some of the verbiage. Why will it take 90 days when you only got a certain amount of players, the vendors, that will be bidding on this RFP? And the second thing is, it's actually item that I'm going to be bringing up. Last week in discussion, intern Director White was saying that cost wasn't the determining factor. It played a role, and no different than what you had said about 7 minutes ago. It's about 10% of the RFP. How do we raise the cost up in RFP versus 90% based on opinion of the people who's doing the interviewing? If they live in town, they get 5 points. If they out of town, they don't get 0. If they have infractions, it goes against them. How do we bring the value of the cost higher into an RFP?
And I don't want to pretend that I'm a procurement person,
Right.
but I will state that when you do an RFP, you do want to base it majorly on the actual qualifications, because you want to make sure you have the best qualified person to the table.
Right.
And that person, regardless of the respective costs, because you're going to always select in the RFP the best responsive bidder. It's not to select the one who gave us the lowest cost. It's
Right.
the best responsive. And sometimes that means we don't go to the lowest cost. You don't go to the lowest bidder because that other person may have given you the lowest bid, but they weren't as responsive. So I think they break it down by the percentage because they want to make sure that the qualifications weigh more heavily than the actual cost.
Usually, if any companies that's bidding on this type of contract, they're going to be qualified, number one.
So that's why it had to be
separates.
determined if you want to do an ITB, which is the invitation to bid, and they look at nothing but the cost.
Right.
And you have to go with the vendor that brings you the lowest cost. However, in doing that, it may not necessarily be the vendor of choice. It may not be the best responsive bidder, but it will be the lowest bidder.
Right.
So that's why we had to determine which options and how you guys wanted to proceed today.
Okay. One other thing, if the maker of the motion, my Super 9 Commissioner Francine Scott, if she would just add one little note in. Madam Administrator, I would like for you to have a seat at that table during that procurement process.
Unfortunately, the actual policy now does not allow the administrator to sit at the table. We have to kind of get the information, just because if something gets questioned prior to bringing it to the governing body, I would not have any knowledge about it. So I have to kind of be out of it. We do have personnel from the administrator's office that is normally on it.
Right. All right. Thank you, Madam Administrator. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You got it, Commissioner. Commissioner from the 9th. Commissioner Scott, you still in the queue?
Yes, sir. One quick question. What's the funding source for this extension? Where?
It will continue to come out of the same budget, Commissioner Scott. Keep in mind that these costs will be reflected on the next bill, not the current, the next tax bill, whatever is decided.
Okay.
I recall there being a few more questions than just being an RFP. I mean, we had some concerns about recycling. At what point do we include those in the conversation as to how this new RFP will go out? Is that something that we need to address in committee, or send it back to committee and kind of put everything and wrap it in a bow, or is that something we're trying to do right now? Is that something we're trying to determine everything we want in this new RFP now, or do you think it's at least worthy of another committee session for us to kind of dive down deep as to how we want this RFP to be put out to the public? All right, Commissioner Pulliam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. That is what I was trying to get to the bottom of. Are we going to craft that verbiage now, or are we going to send this back to committee yet again, or are we going to let our procurement department craft the image? The verbiage. So that was my question to my colleagues. Do we want to address that now and just send it out for RFP, and then next committee cycle, then we'll come up with directions for procurement?
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Pulliam. Commissioner Clark, we haven't heard from you on this matter. You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, so the recycling piece, I don't think it's really an option right now. We don't have an option to do it as a city. So that would have to be something that the haulers themselves, whoever selected, would potentially add to the service if they have the ability to do so, correct?
Yes, sir, yeah. They will be required to offer that service.
Right, because right now, as a city, as our current services go, recycling is not a thing for us.
Yeah, right now, it's contaminated and, yes, sir, so we're not recycling.
Okay, so I know the question is if we're looking to add that. I mean, I don't think we can say we're looking to add it because we don't have the ability to do it. The haulers themselves, even if they were to make a response, they would have to take it somewhere else because we don't have a recycling part in our operations. So I think that's the part I need clarity on because we're saying recycling, but it doesn't exist. So what are we really saying? And because let's say resident B says, hey, I want recycling. Well, and they are charged some extra for recycling. How the heck is it being done? How is it going to be facilitated? How is that even operating? Because right now, it's not a thing in our current process. So, I mean, if you don't know, Dr. Malik, it's okay. But I'm just kind of putting it out there. We're talking about recycling, but I don't think it's an option for us.
Not to interrupt you, Commissioner Clark, but is there any way we can have the haulers to present a recycling option for our community? Other communities do it. I know one of the number one complaints I hear as we're out in the public is, I like to recycle. I prefer to recycle, even if it costs me more. We just need to be able to offer the ability for people to recycle. Yes, Dr. Malik?
Yes, sir, so that's why we separate recycling from this contract, and then either we do the RFP, but right now, at least the department recommendation was the hauler still need to offer it. And the idea was that we work with the hauler to establish our own program at different locations, because it's gonna take a lot more time to really get back to the real recycling. And so we do have option to, as the merger indicated, we put another RFP to select a hauler who can build the recycling program for the city.
But in my opinion, I think it'd be prudent for us to at least be able to provide communication to our constituents as to how much it's going to cost, instead of putting a garbage contract in place and then come back and say, if you want to recycle, it's going to cost as much as you're paying to, have your waste picked up. Is there any way as they respond to the RFQ that we could say, if you were to add recycling, it would cost this much?
Yes, sir, we can add that part to the RFP that, if you have to provide recycling, what's
what would be the cost?
cost range? Yeah. Yes,
Perfect.
sir. Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Pulliam?
Is there not, thank you, Mayor Johnson, is there not just a list of all of possible potential services that could be offered? And then if they offer it, they offer it. If they don't, they don't. And they give us a cost per service. I guess, because when you say that earlier, Administrator Allen, you stated that we were going to take that into account, but you needed direction from this body as far as what language we wanted in the, now we've decided RFP, well, we have not decided, but it sounds like we're going in the direction of an RFP.
Yes. So if the question is regarding the ancillary costs?
Ancillary costs as well as the auxiliary services.
Okay, those services are separate. Those auxiliary services are separate. They have been, in the past, those funds have been utilized to offset some of those services. That's the difference. So we're just going to strictly not look at the actual cost right now. We're only going to look at the responses that we receive from whichever company can provide us the services. So we're just looking at we're separating them. That's what we were recommending, requesting that we actually separate those two processes. One for the cost and one for the actual selection of a provider for the waste haul.
Okay. And now as far as the services are concerned, so that goes back to my original question. Are we just looking for the street sweeping and the mosquito control?
No, no, ma'am. Those shouldn't even really, we don't need to include this in this process at all. And that may be where the confusion is. We don't need to include those. Those are totally separate. Those are part of the ancillary cost.
Okay. So all we are looking for is trash pickup,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
And whether or not you want to include, as you were talking about, the recycling option, that could be added as a criteria, because I know you were discussing, what do we need to add? Do we need to take it back and have those discussions at a committee meeting? Those are the things, like you guys have already said you want one provider. You want that one provider to respond to all three zones. And if you want recycling, that could be a criteria that's weighted and scored as part of this process, where they have to present their options for the recycling.
Okay. So the additional services, final point, the additional services will be in a separate RFP at another time, or no?
We will bring back to you the actual services.
Okay.
And look at, when we're talking about the overall cost of the actual tax bill. We'll bring all that back to you, and we'll go down each line of those ancillary costs and tell you how those have been funded. Because some of those ancillary costs are not only funded by the actual tax bill. Some of them are taken from other funds. Half of them are taken from other funds. So we want to bring it's so convoluted that we want to bring you back two separate items. And we'll bring you back recommendations to fund those ancillary costs as well.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation and clarification, Administrator Allen.
You're welcome.
All right, Commissioner Lewis from the 6th, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Keeping in mind that I think when we were having earlier discussion about waste contract, that Dr. Malik, we were discussing an increase in price. So when this RFP goes out and we make a determination of what services we're going to be getting from contract of said vendor, my question is, are we looking at the increase in price? Because I think Dr. Malik had brought us an increase in price. There was a number that we did not agree upon, and then there was another number that he brought back, a lower number for those services. So my question is, Dr. Malik, and I know the price of things are going up, will that price increase be in this particular contract that you were brought before us some months ago? Or does it need to be, or will it be? The cost of doing business has gone up, so are you looking for this price to be a part of this new contract?
So moving forward, as the Administrator, Ms. Allen stated, so we're separating these two. So price, we're gonna do this RFP and bring it back a single contractor. There will be no mentioning or nothing that what the price should be set. That will be separate assessment department and administrator. We work and bring it back to this body as a separate agenda item for this discussion. The cost of services and the services itself. What are the services? What the cost? What is the level of service? So this RFP. The request for price increase will not be included when we bring back recommendation to award.
So but there's a potential to see a price increase. That's what you're saying?
I mean, the cost of services, it's all depend on the level of services.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to remind this group that in our industrial park out in South Richmond, we have 2 recyclers that have decided to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in lifting our planet by recycling waste. It would not be in our best interest not to be a community that's observant of, what we put in our landfills. So Pure Cycle is a project that's currently underway that's going to be a plastics waste recycler. And of course, Arubis, who's invested almost $900 million, is an electronics copper recycler. So if we're going to attract opportunities like that in Augusta, we should live what we sell, and that recycling is important. even if we had to pay extra for it, we should include it. All right. So obviously, there's a lot of conversation on this. Is there a motion potentially to send this? She made a motion for an RFP, but she didn't include all the other things that we've discussed regarding recycling and all those other things. Yeah, and it didn't second. So, but all right. So her motion was to issue an RFP, but it did not address all these other things we've discussed. Recycling.
Yes. So I would recommend that we include the RFP, telling us the directive of how you want to proceed, one contractor, as you've already stated, for all zones, and the extension of current contracts for an additional 4 months, which means they start immediately after March, because we already have a 3-month extension that you already approved. So now we have to approve the additional. That's part of this actual motion.
What about my recycling? That's done.
And to include the recycling.
All right,
So
there we
it's
go.
this motion.
It's pretty much this motion, but it's separating the other part from it.
Okay.
It's such a large, agenda item.
But would that get you what you want?
No.
That caption?
No, ma'am, because it has street sweeping and mosquito control.
Exactly.
That's the
You're
only
taking
thing.
that out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, Madam Clerk, are you clear on the motion?
Yes, sir. Let's try it.
Okay.
A motion to approve an RFP process for rebid for one contractor, 3-zone, optional street sweeping and mosquito control, right? That's out?
That's out.
Recycle, but
Yes.
the recycle, but the street sweeping and the mosquito control out.
Yes, ma'am. But we
Okay.
still have to deny the original process, because the original is still standing until we start this process again.
Mr. Mayor, could we ask the administrator to state the motion and then, and we'll be clear because,
Okay,
with
okay.
us both
Madam
trying to
Administrator, you
do
mentioned
it.
that we need to deny first. So wait a second.
Well, that, it had,
we need
no,
to do
so
that
that's
first?
just the recommendation.
Okay. We may have to let Dr. Malik. I'm going to try it.
Okay.
We're going to motion to deny the current process,
Okay, we got that.
process, and to rebid with using an RFP for one contractor for all 3 zones, to include additional services for recycle, and to make sure we include bulky waste. What else am I missing, Doc?
Yes, so RFP will include 3 services: residential waste or garbage, bulky waste, and yard waste. And that 4th service we will add into the RFP as an add-on service, recycling. So that will get this body to kind of review further, but we will bring the price. So those 3 are definitely, we're going to proceed, and recycling will be add-up services to get the price and bring it back to this body.
With the extension of 4 additional months of current contractors.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Scott, you good with that motion? Yes. Commissioner Mason, I think you second. Are you good with this? Continue your second? Oh, okay. We don't have a quorum until Commissioner Mason. We do. No, we don't. Oh, yeah, we do. See? You good with second? All right, Madam Clerk, I have a motion and a second.
Okay, you voted?
Let's vote.
That motion carries 8 with Mr. Johnson out, Mr. Lewis out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move on to 17. I think it takes us to 17.
Yes, Ms. Woodard.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I bring back to you alcohol number 2505. It's the existing location, new ownership, retail packaged beer and wine for Karthik Alati. Applicant for Sri Lakshmi Narayan Supermarket Incorporated, doing business as Green Street Supermarket. It's located at 2 Green Street, District 1, Super District 9. The commission has requested that we had add similar conditions to the previous case that was requested for the Olive Road location, and the applicant has supplied us with a signed and notarized affidavit agreeing to some of the basic conditions, and I think Ms. Bonner put it in the affidavit. So I didn't know if I needed to read the conditions, but the applicant is here and they have agreed to some of the conditions, actually all the conditions that were the basic ones. Oh, I am so sorry. My name's Cecilia Woodruff.
No, the applicant, okay.
Get your name and home address again.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Charith Pedigo. I live in 4720 Laurel Oak Drive, Hepzibah, Augusta, Georgia, 30815.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So moved. That's a motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Mayor Pro Tempore Wayne Guilfoyle, second by Commissioner Catherine Smith Rice. Madam Clerk, we're voting. All right, colleagues, one last item.
That motion carries with Mr. Lewis and Mr. Jordan Johnson out.
All right, Madam Clerk, number 19.
Number 19 is to receive as information an update to Administrative Rule 11, Augusta Inclement Weather Emergency Condition Administrative Rule.
Administrator Allen?
Mr. Mayor, members of the governing body, this is just an update. This is basically one of our administrative rules that have been used probably since 2011. We have revised that just to pretty much clarify some of the payroll rules. No major impact or anything else on the organization or governing body. It's just being brought to you guys for transparency.
All right, any colleagues in the queue? We're going to receive this as information without objection. Is there any objection? Madam Clerk, hearing or seeing none, this information is received. Does that conclude our business for today? Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience today. This session is hereby adjourned. See you at 6 o'clock. Hearing 1. Madam Clerk is going to be hosting.